I am 153 pages into The Fires of Heaven, aka book 5, and I want to thank all of you guys that told me in the comments of these videos that the way to get through the Wheel of Time series is the audio, because you are so right. I finally caved, I finally got the audiobook, and I have been listening along while diamond painting because I can't listen to audio and do nothing. I was finding that I wasn't captivated because the writing isn't super dense in here. I wasn't finding it engaging enough to be able to read along at the same time, which is what I often do when I listen to something that is like fantasy in audio. Pulled out my diamond painting because that is just enough that it keeps my brain locked in to the audio. So we will see how it goes, because while it's definitely making my reading experience much more enjoyable and it's making the pace of this go a lot more smoothly because I'm listening to it in like one chapter sections. Chapters in here are quite long. I'm listening to it on 2x speed, which given the pace of the narration is turning out to be like the perfect speed to listen along without having to read along at the same time. So the chapters on 2x speed, the majority of them are still around 30 minutes. So at multiple times throughout the day, I'm listening to 30-minute chunks, and it's just, I just can't believe how much smoother the whole reading experience has been because of it. And I don't want to speak too soon as well, because obviously this is like nearly a 900 page book. I'm only 150 pages in, so I'm like, is that like a sixth of the way through? I am not necessarily worried right now, but we will see how this video goes, because the reason why I didn't pick up the audio of this to start off with is I don't really listen to fantasy audio at all, especially if I'm not reading along. And also I don't retain the most information when I listen to things. I retain much more if I use my eyes to consume it. So obviously with me looking for the Easter eggs in here, with it being a book club book, previously I thought that reading it physically was the best way for me to consume it, but obviously that takes me so much longer because of my, like, how much I'm struggling with Robert Jordan's writing style than it is to just listen to it. So we'll see how much I actually pick up on through listening to it. I am listening with the book at my side, so when we get to an interesting point, like I've just read chapter 6 and we got some information from Moraine about Balefire and also about the, is it the Terangrials that Rand has been keeping that connect him to those really big ones, that there's like a male and a female one that can amplify power. So when I got to those parts in the audiobook, I wound it back a little bit, pulled the book towards me and read along physically to make sure that I was retaining that information. So as long as I can keep doing that, I think we're going to be okay. So I know that in the comments you guys have told me that one of the great things about this series is the character development of Rand, and something that I've noticed straight off in this book with Rand and Matt as well is that they seem to be becoming more, I don't know whether attuned is the right word, but they seem to be more aware of the historical figures that they're linked to, or the historical figures are becoming more present in their consciousness. So I'm wondering at this point, like, how much of Rand's character development is him maturing as a person, and how much of it is going to be Lews Therin coming towards the present, kind of like through Rand, and him accessing more of Lews Therin and like absorbing that experience. I'm currently really enjoying Min's perspective, I would say probably the most, who is traveling with Swan Sanche, and also Logan. I don't know why, but I've always had a feeling about Logan that I'm gonna really like him, and the way that he kind of swung in and saved the girls has kind of underpinned that for me. So I'm interested to see where his character development goes, because for a while I thought he was gonna like fade into the background, but now I feel like he's coming back to the forefront again a little bit. And I think my least favorite perspective is still Rand. I'm still enjoying Matt, although I'm not really enjoying the setting of, is it Ruidian? Let's consult the glossary, as we always have to do multiple times in these videos. I should be better at this now as well, because I've been listening to it, so I've heard it pronounced multiple times. Ruidian? And I think that could be because just in general I'm not the biggest fan of desert settings, and the Aiel as a whole, I was interested in them to start off with, but I don't feel like they're holding like them as a people. While I really enjoy learning and want to know more about the historical elements of them and how like they split off. So now we have the traveling people that really want peace, who are like the original Aiel, and then you have the Aiel as we know them today with like the warrior maidens, and then also that little sci-fi element that we got in the last book, which now that I've learned about Balefire and how it erases history, I'm wondering how much of this world and how much potentially of the knowledge that has been lost is due to Balefire, because it erases things that have happened and just leaves the memory behind, which you think wouldn't necessarily affect things because the actual event was erased, so it never happened and it's just memories that live on. But I'm thinking like how much was potentially altered from perception and like memory because of Balefire, because obviously it seems as though the little historical sci-fi kind of segment that we got in the last book is something that literally nobody remembers aside from the people who are gifted with this knowledge because they need to like kind of bear the responsibility of it. So I wonder if that has anything to do with Balefire, because with that being such a powerful tool that's like forbidden, I feel like it has to have played some important part in the history and maybe has a hand in the world currently being as we know it. So at the 280 page mark in this book, I have one thing that I'm really enjoying and one thing that I'm very much not. The thing that I'm enjoying is people snapping back at Nynaeve, and it's great because obviously, like I've said over and over again, I don't like Nynaeve. I don't like that she thinks that she's so much better than everybody else. I don't like the way that she sits on her high horse and judges people. And I'm loving seeing people finally like have enough of her treating them like that and snapping back at her. So we've had Elayne do it, but she's not the only one. I think, was it maybe Tom that did it as well? While she's really irritating me in the way that she was behaving, the specific scene is where she has to pretend to be Elayne's maid, and she's so indignant because why should she be the one that pretends to be a maid? It's like in situations like that, like somebody has to do it. And Elayne even said, she was like, I will be the maid in the next turn, I really don't care. And it's just ironic that Nynaeve is so mad about that, even though Elayne is a princess. So if any of them was to play like a noble lady, Elayne would definitely be the most fitting. But I'm really enjoying seeing people be sick of her bullshit and like tell her about it, pull her up on it. And the thing that I'm not enjoying at all is Elayne and Tom. That is really giving me the ick. And I know that like Nynaeve is obviously not having a great time with it as well. She's like, this is a little bit weird. But just the way that Elayne has kind of remembered that Tom is a father figure and remembered that he was her mother's lover and that he was around at the palace when she was a kid, and then she's taken that information and decided that she has a crush, or does she even have a crush on him, or is she just like trying to find someone that isn't Rand because she's assuming at this point that Rand doesn't want her, even though she hasn't seen him to confirm. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that whole thing, and every time it's brought up it gives me the ick a little bit. I'm like a third of the way through the book now, still making decent progress, still think that the audiobook is a really great way to consume this, so thank you once again for the suggestion. I'm also really glad that I'm listening to the audio because I'm noticing there's a lot of, I wouldn't necessarily call it filler, but there is a lot of things happening that I would say are not the most important things that we could be focusing on. A lot of back and forth about relationships as usual. I'm really still not enjoying the Rand perspectives, but it's actually, I don't think it's Rand per se, I think it's anyone who's in that area right now, because I don't really think I'm having a good time with Egwene either. And at this point my favorite perspective I think would still be Min. So I've just hit the 500 page mark in here, and it's hard to say whether I'm enjoying this more than I've enjoyed the previous installments because I am listening to it a different way. Like the reading experience isn't as comparable to me. I'm not getting as frustrated with it as I have with the previous installments. But is that because of the book, or is it because I'm ingesting it in a different way that's making the reading experience smoother? And I mean, the audiobook is definitely doing that for me. I do feel like though if I was reading this with my eyes it would still be a frustrating experience because the amount of things that I feel like I need to really like come in and talk about are kind of few and far between. But I definitely understand what you guys were saying when you said that the audiobook helps you to tune out some of the filler that isn't super relevant while still getting to absorb all of like the really cool plot stuff. Something that struck me as interesting, there's actually a couple of things mainly to do with the Aes Sedai. One thing that I'm really intrigued about is who is going to be the new Amyrlin Seat, because we have Min, Swan and Elada that have found the blue Aja that fled the tower, and Swan is trying to like subtly manipulate them into doing what she wants, even though she has been stilled, so she's no longer an Aes Sedai. And they're indicating that they want somebody, or it would make sense, and it does make sense, for somebody who wasn't at the tower when the Aes Sedai was deposed to be the new Amyrlin Seat, or a new candidate for the Amyrlin Seat. This kind of goes back to a theory I had straight from book one, that the Amyrlin Seat by the end of the series was going to be either Nynaeve or Egwene. At this point, I'm not sure which one it would be. I kind of feel like it's leaning more towards Nynaeve, because I think that Nynaeve's talent, like her particular skill when it comes to being an Aes Sedai, is going to tip more towards healing when she does get a mastery of it. But Egwene is very much like the one that interacts with the dreams, like she's more skilled with navigating, is it Telanriod, how you pronounce it? And now later in the book we also found out, like, I don't know if crafting is anything to do with a particular Aja. I don't feel like it would be at this point, because they've lost the ability to make Terangriel, and is the other one Sangreal? Yeah, they've lost the ability to make those over the ages. But through studying the like cuffs and collars that the Shan use, Elayne now thinks that she is going to be able to make that, and if she can master how to make that, because it's a Terangriel, she assumes that she will be able to make more, which is an art that is lost, so is obviously going to be valuable. So I feel like she's going to lean more in that direction, and also she is the future queen, so I feel like that is the end point for her character arc. I'm really not sure what I feel Egwene's end point is going to be, but right now I am leaning more towards Nynaeve becoming the Amyrlin Seat. Still really interested in Logain and where his storyline is going. And right now I'm at the point where, how do you say her name? Is it Birgitte? Birgitte? She has been pulled out of Terangriel and made real. And I feel like this, because we know that the Tarvaren have the ability to influence the weave, and they're essentially the only people that can do that. I feel like this is potentially the first major point. Actually, no, because we had Matt who blew the horn when he wasn't supposed to. I think that's the only other example I can think of, but this is another example, or one of the first examples, of one of the Tarvaren doing something that is potentially catastrophic and that is going to have like a lasting effect and like a chain reaction on a bunch of other stuff that was supposed to happen that's now not going to happen, because Birgitte was pulled into reality and she wasn't reborn, she wasn't reincarnated, she's literally been dragged into the real world. So I'm excited to see the repercussions of that. I am also actually low-key kind of enjoying the perspective of Megideon and seeing what she's doing, because I feel like out of all of the Forsaken, she seems to be the one that's most actively doing things right now. And with her being tied to Telanriod, I think she thinks that she's stronger than Lanfear. I'm not sure if she is, because isn't Lanfear like the mistress of the dream walking power? Like, she specializes in that, but because it ties into that, and all of the, or most of the female characters at least, have the ability to traverse that world, I'm interested to see how that is going to manifest. I feel like we haven't had a moment in this series yet where any of the main characters, like, I've truly thought that they're in danger. Right now I don't feel like that's ever going to happen. I don't know whether all of the main characters are going to survive. Right now I feel like they are, but because we have so many of them, I kind of would like to see them actually put into some life-threatening situations, or potentially 5 books in, if one of them died, I feel like that would be impactful. But like I said, I'm not sure that that's the kind of series that this is going to be, and I don't feel like we're going to have many casualties, but I don't know yet. It's not happened, so that doesn't mean just because it hasn't happened that it isn't going to. I'm almost at the page 800 mark, and I have not loved the third quarter of this book, so I don't really have anything to report. The bit, because I was really enjoying and I was really into the first half of the book, but when we got into the like battle for Cahayan, I've not tried to say that word out loud before, so now I feel like I'm testing it out. But we got to that, and then we had like Elayne and Nynaeve at the menagerie and like trying to get out of that situation. Wasn't the most compelling to me, so I feel like I've been kind of lulled into not quite a false sense of security, but I've kind of just been going along with the book since those elements started, and like they resolved quite a while ago now. But I've just officially had my first Wheel of Time what the fuck moment. Like I'm cleaning at the minute, and I have like 2 hours of the audiobook left, so I have the audio on while I'm doing like a weekend clean. I was just in the kitchen getting some supplies out of the cupboard, and Rand said Morghese is dead, and I literally stood up and I went out loud. I was like, what? And Curtis was in the room with me as well and was like, what? I did not see that coming. And I mean, the signs were all there that it was leading up to that, but I feel like the way that it was presented, the way that it was delivered, it's the first time in this entire series that I've actually stopped what I'm doing and been shocked by something that has happened in this book. So obviously that's going to have a lot of implications for Elayne, who is currently training to be an Aes Sedai, and it's one of the Forsaken, isn't it, that's masquerading as Gabriel, that's now taken over Caemlyn. So she's not going to be able to just step into her role as queen until they find a way to get rid of him. But I really like that Rand has like really taken offense at this, and he's gearing up to take the kingdom back. So I feel like the general plot line that we're running with Rand now, and I am starting to see his character progression. I'm finding him much less annoying in this book since we've got into the battle parts. I like the realistic element of him like feeling out of his depth, especially when compared to Matt, who has all of this battle knowledge even though he shouldn't have it. I like the plot line that we're running where one by one he is taking all of the areas of the map and bringing them together under his banner, even though that necessarily isn't his goal. Like, he's not going to Caemlyn to liberate and take Caemlyn for himself, but that is undoubtedly what is going to end up happening when he gets rid of Gabriel. So that very much ties into Elayne becoming his wife, I guess, at some point. Although I have actually very recently been spoiled about the resolution of Rand's many love interests. Really, I just really don't know how I feel about it. I really don't. Glad that I've been spoiled for it actually, because knowing it's going to happen before it happens, I feel will prepare me for the eventuality when it does actually unfold in the book. I am surprised about him and Aviendha though, actually, because I know there was some chemistry between them in book 4, but honestly, with how I feel Robert Jordan just really isn't very skilled at writing romance, I thought that the chemistry between them was accidental. So it was a surprise that they actually ended up in a romantic relationship. Although I have to say, even though this is kind of the point and Aviendha is aware of her hypocrisy, I'm finding it very hypocritical how she's holding him for Elayne, and I'm like, yeah girl, you might want to loosen your grip a little bit in that holding that you're doing. But I know a couple of people who finished the book recently and they said that the last 100 pages is really good, so I am looking forward to that. And it's making my cleaning go a little bit faster because I'm doing the entirety of downstairs today, so that's also a good thing. So I finished The Fires of Heaven, and I feel like I say something to this kind of end with every book, especially the further we're getting into this series, but I gave this one 3 stars, and I think, I don't know, this could be the best book in the series for me actually, potentially because I listened to the audiobook of it and I noticed the things that I don't like about the series a lot less that way. But I think that the end of this was like the first moments in the series where I was really taken aback by anything that happened, like this Moiraine stuff. I'm not sure I believe that she's dead, and after having done the live show now and people's reactions in the chat and talking to the other hosts, like I think she might be actually legitimately dead. My first like reaction when reading this is like, she's not dead, because she didn't die. Like, I haven't seen a body. She was transported into was it a Terangrial, and that could mean she's in a hell dimension. She's gone somewhere, but I don't think she's necessarily dead. So I mean, only time will tell. Like I said, based on everyone's reaction now, I think that she might be, but based on my experience reading it, I didn't necessarily believe that. And the reveal of Morghese being dead was much more impactful to me. I mean, obviously we know now, based on the very last chapter, that she isn't actually dead, but I think that Robert Jordan actually executed that pretty well, where I genuinely thought that she was dead, because she's kind of like a minor side character at this point. She's around, she's influential in the world. She definitely has something to do with the plot, but like we don't hear from her a ton. So her being dead and the way that it was kind of just announced and brushed under the rug, I felt like it could be believable, especially with the way that we hop around perspectives in this series a lot. So yeah, that one did get me. But essentially I feel like the things that I really like about this series, I really like enough to keep me reading, but the things that I don't like about this series, which is mainly the delivery and the writing style, will make it that I never enjoy these books to necessarily be more than a 3-star. And it's an interesting predicament to be in, because I can talk about these books, I can get into the nitty-gritty, I can discuss what I like, I can discuss what I don't like, and that's not typical for a 3-star book with me. A 3-star book tends to be a book that I enjoyed, it's a good time, but I'm not really going to think about it very much after that. Like, I had a good time while reading it, but it's not impacted my life enough to have a lasting impact on me. And I'm actually actively thinking about book 6 in this series and picking it up. I know that I'm approaching the slog, which you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like book 7 to 10 that people refer to as the slog. I did see them in a store though recently and noticed that they're only like 500-600 pages, which is a massive difference to these ones, which, I mean, it does beg the question, if the books are only 600 pages, like I feel like he knows that there's not much going on because it's unusual for them to be so short. I just think it's an interesting choice, but I also feel like Robert Jordan in the actual writing process of these books was just kind of winging it, just like writing it in the way that he wanted to write it and being like, yeah, cool, that's done, let's move on to the next set of plot points. I do feel like it's very evident that the series is very well plotted, but as I've said before, I feel like the plotting and the story creation of writing is different to the actual writing. Like, he can craft a story, like he can do that, but can he write it? Not in the most compelling way, in my opinion. So yeah, I had a very good time with The Fires of Heaven. I feel like this is the most excited I've ever been to pick up the next book. I do feel like the audiobook is the main reason for that, because it was a much more enjoyable reading experience for me and a much less tedious reading experience than any of the books in the series so far. So once again, thank you guys for that recommendation. So the next video in this series should be up potentially December, potentially January. We'll see how it goes. I can't believe we've done one whole year of Wheel of Time already, or almost, and we're only like a third of the way through the series. But yeah, if you're enjoying this content, please do let me know down below. And aside from that, guys, don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.